The title for today's lesson is going to be called Meat for the Master's Use. Again, the title of the lesson is going to be Meat for the Master's Use. But it also could be entitled, Am I Available? Because, again, just like I mentioned right here in the book of Ephesians, chapter 4, it talks about us being one body and being multiple members. I think so many times, so many of us might look in the mirror, or we may look at other members like, man, hey, I wish I had this talent so I could serve the Most High. I wish I had this skill so I could serve the Most High. I wish I had, this amount of money so I could serve the Most High. And when we do that, we're doing two things. The first thing we're doing is we're coveting, because we typically have those thoughts or questions in our mind when we see somebody else with a talent or a gift, and we see them operating in their ministry, and then we feel inadequate because we're trying to compare ourselves to them. But again, just like this precept showed, there's multiple different ways and different members. We all have different gifts. So I shouldn't be coveting after somebody else's gift. I shouldn't be coveting after what the Most High blessed somebody else with. Instead, I need to focus on what he did give me and utilize the gifts and talents that he blessed me with. But the other thing that we typically end up doing, so like I said, the first thing is we end up coveting, but the other thing is that we end up doubting the Most High. We're doubting the Most High because by us waiting or wishing that we had a gift or a different talent before we can serve the Most High, that means we're putting a limitation, not believing that the Most High can use us in the state that we're in with the gifts that we already possess. And Most High willing, through this lesson tonight, we're going to find out that it doesn't take much to serve the Most High. We may think that, or we're going to come to find out that we don't need money. We don't need to be the best singer in the world. We don't have to be the fastest runner, have the most talent. We don't have to be the most charismatic. Most High willing, through this lesson tonight, we're going to find out there's one key thing that the Most High is looking for in order for us to serve him. Now, in today's lesson, like I said, we're going to study to see what exactly it means to be meat for the Master's use. Some people may already know what this phrase means, and some people have read over this phrase without truly taking the time to dissect it to find out what it really means. But we should always approach studying the Most High's word with the intent to gain more understanding, so that way we can find out how we can make ourselves become better vessels that can then be used for his good works. So the first scripture that we're going to be reading from tonight is going to be the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 2, verses 20 through 21. Again, the first precept is coming from the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 2, verses 20 through 21.
And it reads, "But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and of earth, and some to honor and some to dishonor." 21. "If a man therefore purge himself from these, he should be a vessel unto honor, sanctified, and meet for the master's use, and prepared unto every good work."
So verse 21 said that if a man therefore first purge himself. So first of all, we must be purged, which means we need to be cleansed. We need to be removing the evil that is residing within us, right? So first, if a man does that, then he shall be a vessel of honor, right? And then to be sanctified. Sanctified simply means to be set apart, because when you're cleaning, you have the dirty things you set to the side, and you move the clean or sanctified things to the other side, so that way they're not cross-contaminated. And the clean things will end up being meat for the master's use, right? So we're going to find out what it means to be meek, okay? Because if we remove what is unclean and undesirable in God's eyes out of our lives, then we can be set apart to be used as vessels for his good works. So again, let's look at and see what it means to be meek for the master's use. So my brother on the printout, or you can pull it up in the Strong's, but I want to pull up the word meek there. It should be G2173.
Right. The word meek in the Greek G2173. And it means profitable, easy to make use of.
Come.
Synonym.
No, go ahead.
A synonym for this is the word available. The available means to be free, able to be used, or not otherwise occupied.
Come. So the word meek in this scripture, right? So like I said, we all have probably read 2 Timothy before, but have we really dissected it to understand what it means to be meek for the Father's use? So it means that we need to be profitable. Profitable means there needs to be of some worth, of some value. But it also means that we need to be easy to make use, right? And then when you look up a synonym for this word, so some in the English, I think we went to the Google for a synonym for profitable or easy, and we came with the word available. So the Google definition of the word available means to be free or able to be used. Key thing is also means or not otherwise occupied. So in order for us to be meek, that means that we have to be prepared and ready for the master's use. We first must be available or not otherwise occupied so that we can be freely used and profitable for the work. Now, there's many, many things out here in the world that can take our attention, right? Because obviously we can't be available if we're occupied with other things. Now, what are some examples of some types of work that we should be doing to show that we are available? Let's stay in the book of 2 Timothy. Let's go to chapter 4 and read verses 1 through 2.
This is the book of 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. I charge thee therefore before the Most High, the Lord Yeshua HaMashiach, who shall judge the quick and the dead at his appearing and his kingdom. Preach the word, instant in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine.
So this right here shows the types of works that we should be doing to show that we are available. Or when we're available, these are the types of things that we will be doing, right? So we all have been charged with the responsibility to preach the true doctrine of Christ. So that's our responsibility as followers of Christ. We have to always be ready and available to correct, to edify others with patience. But this doesn't mean that everyone is meant to be a leader or a preacher, because there are many different ways that we all can share the gospel with others, because that's the primary duty of a teacher or a preacher is to preach and share the gospel. But again, you don't have to have that specific title in order to do that same type of work. We all just need to find our own individual ministries. But sometimes, again, it's the distractions of this world that block people from either finding or excelling in their ministry. Let's go get an example of that. Again, staying in the book of 2 Timothy chapter 4. Now we're going to read verses 10 through 11.
Right? Verse 10 reads, For Demas hath forsaken me, having loved this present world, and is departed unto Thessalonica, Crescens to Galatia, Titus unto Dalmatiah. Only Luke is with me. Take Mark and bring him with thee, for he is profitable to me for the ministry.
Time. So here we see that there were many people that were called, but in the end, it was only Luke that was there, right? Only Luke was available to be profitable for the ministry. Why? Because it says Demas and many others had forsaken him. Why? Because they loved the present world. So even today, many people have forsaken the Most High and his calling on their lives because of their love for the things of this world. So only a few of us are left that are truly profitable for the ministry. Again, the word profitable here is the same word as the word meat that we described earlier. So to be profitable, again, means to be ready, means to be available, not otherwise occupied. So we understand that sometimes it's the love of the world that prevents people from being profitable in their ministry. But sometimes it's also just that people choose to not speak up and share when an opportunity presents itself. What do I mean by that? Let's go to the book of Sirach now. We're going to move to your Apocrypha, the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 4. We're going to read verses 23 through 24.
All right. We're in the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 4, verses 23 and 24. And refrain not to speak. There is occasion to do good. Hide not thy wisdom in her beauty. For by speech wisdom shall be known, learning by the word of the tongue.
I love the book of Sirach. I don't think there's anybody that has read that actually doesn't think it's probably one of their favorite books. There's so much wisdom, and it's just straight to the point. It's direct instructions on ways for us to operate. And this instruction it plainly tells us to refrain not to speak when there is an occasion to do good. But I find that so many of us do this. So many of us try to quench the spirit or hold back the Holy Spirit's wisdom when it's time to bring her forward. But the scripture clearly here says, hide not thy wisdom, because it's only through speech that wisdom will be known. So how can we expect for the gospel to be spread to the four corners of the earth through speech if we're not speaking, if we're quenching the spirit? The Most High did not bless us with wisdom for us to keep it to ourselves. So when an opportunity to edify presents itself, not saying that we need to, and that doesn't mean that we have to go Bible beating, as the Christians say, knocking on every single door and commanding people, hey, do you know Christ? Do you know about baptism? Not saying that we need to go that far, but again, it's the scripture says when there's an occasion to do good, when the opportunity presents itself and you feel the spirit pulling on you like, there's an opening there. I think I should say something. When that opportunity presents itself, we should not hold back from speaking. Just give them a little bit, plant a seed, and then let the Most High do the increase. That's an opportunity to let the light of Christ shine through you. All right, talking about that light, let's go to the book of Matthew. We're going to go to the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 13 through 16.
Right? And it reads, Ye are the salt of the earth. If the salt have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. City that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven.
Great precept, right? We have to understand, saints, that we are God's chosen people, right? We are God's chosen people, and we're meant to be the salt and the light, the salt of the earth and the light of this world. We're meant to be leaders. And as leaders, that means we're meant to be examples to the other nations as to how we're supposed to serve the Most High. Our righteousness should be clearly visible through our works, through our doings, through how we conduct ourselves on a day-to-day basis. And it should be clearly visible without boasting. Deacon Tubman says it all the time. Like, people should be able to know that I'm a Christian or a follower of Christ without me having to shout it, without having to be able to tell them, like, hey, I'm a deacon, or I'm an officer, or whatever, or I'm a bishop, or I'm an elder. Those titles don't mean anything. And it doesn't, again, going back to, we don't have to be boasting about who we serve. It should just be evident. And when others see our goodness, we simply give all that glory and honor and recognition to the Most High. No, a brother says, "Oh, hey, there's something about you. There's a glow about you. You're always smiling." Oh yeah, that's because I'm a follower of Christ. All praises to the Most High. Thank the Most High that I'm able to smile today. Thank the Most High that I'm able to be in a good mood today. Thank the Most High that I'm able to walk today. Someone wants to give recognition to your talent or gift. Maybe you're a great singer. Hey, somebody gives you a compliment. Hey, I really like the way that you sang that song. Hey, all praise to the Most High for giving me the ability to sing. Somebody, and again, it can go on and on. It doesn't matter what the recognition that someone gives you. We have to understand that we are nothing without Christ and the Most High. So all of that glory and honor goes to him. So if there be those, now even though there may be those that might ridicule or mock us for believing and sharing this truth, right? Because that could happen sometimes. Someone could be saying, hey, man, that's a really nice car you got. Hey, all praise to the Most High, the Father, Ahia allowed me to get this car. And then right after that, someone says, oh, really, Ahia? Who's Ahia? Oh, you're one of those Christian people, right? Or you're an Israelite. Now they start mocking you just because you gave recognition to the Most High. But should that stop us from doing the work? The answer is la'ah. Now, let's go to the next precept. Let's go to the book of 1 Peter, chapter 3, verses 13 through 17. Again, we're going to go to the book of 1 Peter, chapter 3, verses 13 through 17. Because like we said, we understand there's going to be mocking. We understand that there's going to be ridicule, but none of that should prevent us from doing the work.
All right. 1 Peter chapter 3, starting at verse 13, and it reads, "And who is he that will harm you, if ye be followers of that which is good? But and if ye suffer for righteousness' sake, happy are ye. Be not afraid of their terror, neither be troubled. But sanctify the Most High power in your hearts. Be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason of the hope that is in you, with meekness and fear, having a good conscience, that whereas they speak evil of you as of evildoers, they may be ashamed that falsely accuse your good conversation in Christ. For it is better, if the will of the Most High be so, that ye suffer for well-doing than for evil."
So again, it says, if we be followers of that which is good, then we shouldn't be afraid of the terror. We shouldn't be afraid of the trouble, the mocking, the ridicule, the hatred that evildoers might give us. it means nothing to us, right? But even in the midst of that, we're still always ready to give an answer for the hope, for the goodness, for the faith and belief that we have. Man, again, why are you always in such a good mood? I'm in a good mood because I know Christ. And let that feed off of them. I'll never forget the last company that I worked at that company for 8 years or something like that. But there was an older gentleman. He had probably been there for 6 years. Well, he had been there for a long time, but I think I worked with him for give or take 6 years. But without a fail, every single time I saw him, he said, "Hey, how you doing?" And I said, "Always great." And that was just kind of sort of my thing. Regardless of how I felt, my response was, "Hey, I'm always great." And I remember at his retirement, he asked me, he's like, "Man, why do you always say that?" He's like, "I've never seen you not in a good mood, or every time I ask you, you always say great." I said, and that's what I told him. I said, "Hey, I'm always great because, Christ has still allowed me to be here today. So there's still an opportunity for me to repent and earn my way into the kingdom." And he said, and again, that man had worked at that company for over 30 some odd years. And he said, in the 30 years that I've been here at this company, that's probably one of the most memorable things I'm going to take with me when I retire. And I felt like that was such a blessing to hear that from an aged man. Now, obviously, I probably didn't have the opportunity to, or I did not rather have the opportunity to give him a lot of knowledge or insight into, the scriptures. But that little bit of light that I gave him, who knows what seed that planted in him? Because I can at least say for that one moment, every single day that he approached me, he saw the light of Christ in just that one instance, right? So we should always be ready to give an answer to anyone that questions our beliefs. We shouldn't be fearful of other people's judgment, even if that means that we may suffer wrongfully for doing the will of the Most High, because there's plenty of work left out here for us to do. Let's talk about that work. Let's go to the book of Matthew. We're going to go to the book of Matthew, chapter 9, verses 37 through 38.
All right. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 9, verses 37 and 38. Then saith he unto his disciples, The harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers into his harvest.
And just like we said, there is plenty of work to be done before Christ returns, but still only a few are prepared to be sent to do the work. So what do I mean by being sent? Let's go now to the Old Testament. We're going to go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 6. I'm going to read verses 8 through 10. Again, we're going to the book of Isaiah, chapter 6, reading verses 8 through 10.
And it reads, Also, I heard the voice of the Most High saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then said I, Here am I, send me. And he said, Go, and tell this people, Hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, convert, and be healed.
So it's the voice of the Lord that is calling us, saints. Whom shall he send out to do the work? That's the question that the Most High is bringing forth to us, and it was brought forth to Isaiah. Who's he going to send out? But more importantly, who will answer the call? Who will stand up and say, Here I am, Lord, send me? Who will go out and tell the people to change from their wicked ways so that they can be healed? That's the question that we all should be asking ourselves. Am I really available to answer the call? But again, we can't just answer that question. We have to know what it means to be available. Going back to the definition earlier. Are we available? Means, are we ready to be used? Are we not occupied with other things of the world? Let's see what else comes let's see what else comes with being called. Let's look at an example coming from Abraham. Go to the book of Genesis, chapter 22, read verses 1 through 3. Again, we're in the book of Genesis, chapter 22, verses 1 through 3.
And it reads, and it came to pass after these things that the Most High did tempt Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here I am. He said, Take now thy son, thine only son, Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah. Offer him therefore a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee. Verse 3. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, rose up and went into the place of which the Most High had told him.
Come on. Saints, if we are truly meant to be servants of the Lord, then we will be tried and tested. Right? We can't expect to be in this fight, in this war, and not be tried. When it says that God tempted Abraham, that doesn't mean that he tempted him to sin. It means that he has to prove Abraham was worthy of the blessings that was to come. And when it was time for Abraham to be tested, he responded by saying, Here I am, Lord. He essentially said, Look at me, Lord. I'm ready. Use me. That's the state that we all should be in. We should be on standby, waiting, ready for the Most High to call us, and then saying, Here I am. Use me, Lord. Let's see who else cried out saying, Here I am. Let's see, go to the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 3, verses 1 through 10. Again, staying in the Old Testament, the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 3, verses 1 through 10.
And it reads, And the child Samuel ministered unto the Most High before Eli. The word of the Most High was precious in those days. There was no open vision. It came to pass at the time when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see. And the lamp of the Most High went out in the temple of the Most High, where the ark of the Most High was. And Samuel was laid down to sleep. The Most High called Samuel, and he answered, Here am I. And he ran unto Eli and said, Here am I. Thou callest me. He said, I call not. Lie down again. He went and laid down. And the Most High called yet again Samuel. And Samuel arose and went to Eli and said, Here am I. For thou didst call me. He answered, I call not, my son. Lie down again. Now Samuel did not yet know the Most High, neither was the word of the Most High yet revealed unto him. And the Most High called Samuel again the third time. And he arose and went to Eli and said, Here am I. For thou didst call me. And Eli perceived that the Most High had called the child. Therefore Eli said unto Samuel, Go, lie down, and it shall be, if he call thee, that thou shalt say, Speak, Most High, for thy servant heareth. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. And the Most High came and stood and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel answered, Speak, for thy servant heareth.
Man, this is another great story that I feel like fits so many of us. It may fit us, maybe before we came in the truth when we were younger. It may fit some of us now that we're in the truth and not knowing which direction. Well, let me back that up. It probably fits so many of us when we were younger, not really understanding anything about the Bible. Then it probably was still us again when we first got a little bit of taste of the truth, depending on where we heard it from. So then we were being called, but not sure which direction we were being called. And then we're probably still, a lot of us now. We're in the truth, walking in the truth, and we're hearing from the Most High, but we still don't know exactly how to obey. So in this story, Samuel was just a child when he was first called by the Lord. And again, just like so many of us, Samuel didn't recognize that it was the Lord that was calling him. Instead, he believed he was being called by someone else for a different purpose. But even still, the Lord still continued to call out on the Samuel. And again, just like so many of us, how many times has the Most High called out to us and we entertained other spirits, or we got occupied by other things? But yet and still, the Most High still continues to call out for us, still to call out for his children, for us to come back home, for us to serve him. But in Samuel's case, it wasn't until Eli explained to Samuel that it was indeed the Lord calling out to him that Samuel was then able to understand his calling. Again, just like us, it might take an elder, it might take a deacon, it might take another brother or sister to help guide us, to say, well, hey, maybe the Most High is trying to tell you this. Maybe you need to sit down and listen to what the Most High is saying. Then once Samuel understood this, he went back to sleep and made himself available to be called on again. Again, that's a key point. After Eli explained to Samuel that the Most High was calling on him, that Samuel at that moment, he had to go back and wait. He didn't just immediately say, okay, well, now I'm going to listen, now I'm going to obey. He had to go back to sleep and wait again until he heard that voice. And once he went back this time, he was ready, and he answered saying that he was ready to obey the Lord. When he said, speak for thy servant heareth, that word hear also means to obey. All right, let's go to the book of Mark. The book of Mark, chapter 1, verses 16 through 20.
Right? In the book of Mark, chapter 1, verses 16 down to verse 20. Now, as he walked by the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea. They were fishers. Yeshua said unto them, come ye after me, and I will make you to become fishers of men. And straightway they forsook their nets and followed him. And when he had gone a little further thence, he saw James the son of Zebedee, John his brother, who also were in the ship, mending their nets. And straightway he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the ship with the hired servants and went after him.
So the key thing that I want us to pull out is that when Yeshua called on these men, that they straightway forsook what they were doing, right? When Yeshua calls us, we are to immediately drop whatever we're doing and follow his instructions. It doesn't matter what our occupation is. It doesn't matter what our family members may think. It doesn't matter what or who we may leave behind. Following after Christ and the Most High should be our first priority at all times. Let's go on to that same understanding. Let's go to the book of Luke. The book of Luke, chapter 9, verses 59 through 62.
We're in the book of Luke, chapter 9, verses 59 through 62, and it reads, and he said unto another, follow me. But he said, Lord, Suffer me first to go and bury my father. Yeshua said unto him, Let the dead bury their dead, but go thou and preach the kingdom of the Most High. And another also said, Lord, I will follow thee, but let me first go bid them farewell, which are at home at my house. Yeshua said unto him, No man having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of God.
God. So here in Luke, we see a different parallel. So in Mark, we saw that when Christ called, that both of his servants, they straightway went and followed his instructions. They dropped whatever they were doing and they obeyed. But here in Luke, we see that there were some that were called and they were said, okay, yes, Christ will come, but let me go take care of these other things first. So what does that mean? It means that they were not meet for the master's use. They were not ready. They were not available. So, and it's because they were otherwise occupied. So if you're otherwise occupied, then you can't be profitable for the use when the time comes. There were those that said that they would follow Christ, but instead they wanted to do according to their own time schedule. They wanted to put other worldly matters before the work of the ministry. Christ had to explain to them that once we start working for the Most High in this ministry, there is no looking back. There is no putting any other business before it. Just like we mentioned earlier, there are many different ways that someone can share the gospel or be a light to others. Sometimes it's ministering with the word, and sometimes it's ministering with love. Let's get an example of that. Let's go to the book of Luke, or stay in the book of Luke, chapter 10, and we're going to read verses 25 through 37, right? So this is a fairly long parable, but again, I don't want to interrupt the reader while he's going through. So again, the book of Luke, chapter 10, verses 25 through 37.
And it reads, And behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tempted him, saying, Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? And he said unto him, What is written in the law? How readest thou? He answering said, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself. And he said unto him, Thou hast answered right. This do, and thou shalt live. But he, willing to justify himself, said unto Yeshua, And who is my neighbor? Yeshua answering said, A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment, and wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain priest that way, and when he saw, he passed by on the other side. Likewise the Levite, when he was at that place, came and looked on him, and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. And he went to him, and bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. And on the morrow, when he departed, he took out 2 pence and gave them to the host, and said unto him, Take care of him, and whatsoever thou spendest more, when I come again, I will repay thee. Which now of these 3 thinkest thou was neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? And he said, He that showeth mercy on him. Then said Yeshua unto him, Go and do thou likewise.
Time. So while again, my brother. So again, this is a great parable, right? And in this parable, Christ is showing us an example of what it truly means to love thy neighbor. Now, it can be assumed that both the priest and the Levite in this parable were men that were known to be keepers of the law. But when they both saw an opportunity to do good, they avoided it. And on the other hand, we see a Samaritan, who again we could assume that that the Samaritan typically did not keep the Most High's laws, but yet the Samaritan still showed compassion and had mercy. The Samaritan saw someone that was in need, and they took care of them. Christ told us to go and do likewise. So again, that means if we have the means and the ability to take care of someone that is in need, then we should show compassion and just do it. Furthermore, we should extend this love to people in and without the fold. So this simple act is an example of what it means to be available, to be profitable for the Most High's use. All right, let's go to the book of Matthew now. Let's watch Christ himself showing us an example of how to be available. The book of Matthew, chapter 9, verses 10 through 13.
All right, this is the book of Matthew, chapter 9, verses 10 through 13, and it reads, "And it came to pass, Yeshua sat at meat in the house, behold, many publicans and sinners came and sat down with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, Why eateth your master with publicans and sinners? But when Yeshua heard that, he said unto them, They that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. But go ye and learn what that meaneth. I will have mercy and not sacrifice. For I am not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance."
God. Some of the best works that we can do for the ministry is simply being available. Christ explained that he did not come to call the righteous, but rather he called the sinners. And in this example, the first way that Christ ministered to the sinners was by simply being available for them to come and sit with him to eat. Right? Because how can you show that light to those that you're not amongst? Sometimes it's not our words that edify, but rather it's how we live our lives and conduct ourselves. Our beloved Elder Hannah says it all the time. A gospel seen is better than a gospel heard. But if we are never amongst those that need to see the right way to live, how will they know of our good example? The book of Romans asks the same question. Let's go to the book of Romans, chapter 10, verses 13 through 17.
Right, we're in the book of Romans, chapter 10, verses 13 down to 17, and it reads, "For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher? And how shall they preach except they be sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things. But they have not all obeyed the gospel. Isaiah saith, Lord, who have believed our report? So then faith cometh by hearing, hearing by the word of Ahiah."
Says faith cometh by hearing. So again, faith comes by hearing the word of the Most High. But one can't hear the word of God unless a preacher be sent. And a preacher can't be sent if he's what? If he's not available. All right, let's go to the book of Acts, chapter 13, verses 2 through 4. Anyone that is going out and preaching the Most High's word, we're not doing it on our own free will. We're doing it because the Spirit is sending us out. That's why when the Most High's word is spoken, it doesn't come back void. It's being sent out with a purpose. And we're going to see who's guiding these preachers, these good works, anytime that we are ready to share and be that light.
All right, we're in the book of Acts, chapter 13, verses 2 through 4. As they ministered to the Lord and fasted, the Holy Spirit said, "Separate me, Barnabas and Saul, for the work whereunto I have called them." And when they had fasted and prayed and laid their hands on them, they sent them away. So they, being sent forth by the Holy Spirit, departed unto Seleucia, and from thence they sailed to Cyprus.
Come. It says what? That they being sent forth by the Holy Spirit. So both Barnabas and Paul were set apart to do the work of the ministry. And it was the Holy Spirit herself that called them. No man can be expected to succeed in this work unless they first be called and sent by the Holy Spirit. More proof on this, let's go see the Apocrypha. Go to the book, the Apocrypha. I'm going to read from the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9, and we're going to start reading from verses 9 through 12.
All right. This is the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9, verses 9 through 12, and it reads, "And wisdom was with thee, which knoweth thy works, and was present when thou madest the world, and knew what was acceptable in thy sight, and right in thy commandments. O send her out of thy holy heavens, and from the throne of thy glory, that being present she may labor with me, that I may know what is pleasing unto thee. For she knoweth and understandeth all things, and she shall lead me soberly in my doings, and preserve me in her power. So shall my works be acceptable, and then shall I judge thy people righteously, and be worthy to sit in my Father's seat."
Jump down to verse 17.
"And thy counsel, who hath known, except thou give wisdom, and send thy Holy Spirit from above?"
So I just wanted to see that it was this wisdom that came from the Most High that's been present from the beginning, that is present with men, and it's only through this wisdom that we know what is acceptable to the Most High. And verse 17 shows that this wisdom is none other than the Holy Spirit. So again, wisdom is the Holy Spirit. The wisdom is, the Holy Spirit that was with the Most High from the beginning. And it is by her that men gain understanding and know what is acceptable in the sight of the Most High. It is by her counsel that we should be led into knowing and doing whatever is pleasing unto the Most High. Now we understand that it's the Holy Spirit that is sending us out to do the Father's will, and it is her wisdom that guides us to be profitable and available to be used. Now, but what about someone that is not available, right? So we read that we need to be ready, we need to be available, we need to be profitable. But what if somebody is not available? What happens to those people? What happens to those that are otherwise too busy to answer the call? Christ gives us a parable on this as well. Let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 22, verses 1 through 8. Again, the book of Matthew, chapter 22, verses 1 through 8. And we're almost done, saints.
All right, and it reads, "And Yeshua answered and spake unto them again by parables, and said, The kingdom of heaven is like unto a certain king, which made a marriage for his son. And he sent forth his servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. Again he sent forth other servants, saying, Tell them which are bidden, Behold, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all things are ready. Come unto the marriage. And they made light of it, and went their ways, one to his farm, another to his merchandise. And the remnant took his servants, and entreated them spitefully, and slew them. But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth. And he went, and he sent forth his armies, and destroyed those murderers, burned up their city. Then saith he to his servants, the wedding is ready. They which are bidden were not worthy.
That last part says, they which were bidden were not worthy. In this parable, Christ is the king, and the marriage feast is the kingdom of heaven. The servants are those that have already turned their lives over to Christ and are working to enter into the kingdom. Then they which were bidden to the feast are all people that have been called unto repentance. But unfortunately, the majority of people that are called treat their calling as if it's not important. Instead, they go off doing their own will and ignore the message of the servants. This scripture says that those people are not worthy to enter into Christ's kingdom. And what does it mean? Well, I'm going to hold that. Last precept is coming from the book of Matthew, chapter 3, verses 8 and 9. Again, last precept for this lesson is coming from the book of Matthew, chapter 3, verses 8 and 9. But I really want us to, before we even go into that precept, I really want us to envision that parable that Christ just gave us here in Matthew 22. We're all being called and being bidden to a feast. And we see that when that king issues out that invitation, but we are too busy to receive his invitation. We're too busy to enter into the kingdom, that we're only going to make the king angry, and he's going to send his armies to destroy those and destroy the city. We don't, because we will not be worthy, because we're turning down that free gift, the free invitation. That's not where we want to be at, saints. All right. Again, last precept is coming from the book of Matthew, chapter 3, verses 8 through 9.
And it reads, bring forth, therefore, fruits meet for repentance. And think not to say within yourselves, we have Abraham to our father. For I say unto you that the Most High is able of these stones to raise up children unto Abraham. Come on.
Now, in this verse, John was telling the Pharisees and the Sadducees that it didn't matter who they were, right? And they use the word meat here, right? Because we're being called to what? Bring forth meat that is, or bring forth fruit that is meat for repentance. So, my brother, can you get the word meat in the Strong's right here? It's G514.
All right. G514, and it means worthy, due reward, befitting, or suitable.
Time. So in order to be accepted into Christ's kingdom, we all need to bring righteous works that show that we are worthy. We also don't need to worry about not being equipped to do the work, right? The Most High doesn't need our abilities to use us because he could use stones to do his work. He just needs us to be available. So in conclusion, I want all of us to ask ourselves, are we available? Are we profitable? And are we worthy? Are we meet for the master's use? And with that, this concludes the lesson. Thank you for listening, and shalom.